This Shabbos we enter into a brand new book in the Torah, the third book of the Torah, the book of Leviticus, Vayikra. It's a book that talks about sacrifices. It talks about the service in the temple, about connectedness and connection to Hashem, and is the forerunner of all of our prayers which have supplanted the sacrifices since the temple was destroyed. Now it's interesting that the first word of this book of Vayikra has a word Vayikra with a tiny little aleph, Vav Yud Kuf Resh, and a tiny little aleph. And the custom of old was when one prepared a child to begin the journey of Torah and learning, and therefore had to learn how to read, the first aleph that one showed a child at the most tender age was this aleph from the word of Vayikra from the book of Leviticus. Interesting. Because we could have chosen an aleph from the book of Breshit, right? From the word, the first word of the Torah, Breshit, has an aleph. Why do we wait for the third book? And the Midrash tells us that let a child who is so pure be surrounded by the purity, which is the theme of the book of Leviticus. But I'd like to share a few more ideas relating to the aleph specifically of the word Vayikra, the first word of the third book of the Torah. You see, this little aleph is written as a tiny little letter. Most letters are written the same size throughout the Torah. Some letters are written larger for particular reasons. Some letters, very few, are written smaller, and this is one of them. This aleph of the first word of the book of Vayikra is written as a tiny little letter, a little aleph. So perhaps there are other methods and other meanings of education that are implied in this little aleph. Firstly, a little aleph. It implies that start with a child at the littlest age. Don't wait till the child is already grown and developed. Begin the journey when the child is just still so small. Secondly, let humility, smallness, recognition of our own deficiencies and our need to be attached to Hashem, let us not come with a sense of arrogance that we know it all, but let our learning of the Torah be initiated with a letter that is written small and tiny, so we remember to be humble in the process of learning the Torah. And thirdly, let our method of learning Torah recognize that what does it take to grow? It takes one tiny little step. We don't have to grow in leaps and bounds. This is not about rocket ship growth. This is about incremental steps. And the first step that one takes in developing a child and developing ourselves and the child in us all is to realize that it's a little aleph, a little step that makes a huge difference. And what is the difference that that little aleph makes? So Rashi, one of the commentaries on the Torah, explains that this little aleph actually makes the difference between two different words, the word without the aleph and the word with the aleph. And they are not only different words, they are diametrically opposite one to the other. The word Vayikra without the aleph spells another Hebrew word, Vayikar, which means to chance upon something. Something just happened. As we say in Hebrew, Zekara, something just happened, is the word Vayikar. And the word Vayikra is a very designed and purposeful communication. It is a calling. It is a connectedness where one really is aware of what is taking place. And interestingly, every time the prophet Bilam, who is the opposite of what Moses represents and tried to curse the Jewish people, so whenever he met God, it says Vayikar, he chanced upon God. God chanced upon him. He lived in the world of chance. Things just happened. They weren't by design. As opposed to Moshe Rabbeinu's word of Vayikra, which implies design, purpose, meaning, connection. And what makes the difference between these two worlds? A tiny little aleph. A little aleph transforms a world of chance into a world of meaning. And this is why we begin with a child learning the first aleph out of this word Vayikra, because he is learning that the world of Torah and knowledge of Torah and the values of Torah transforms a world for a lifetime, from being a world that just happens and things just emerge and evolve, and we don't actually have a clarity of purpose and meaning. And when we learn the Torah and we connect ourselves to the vision and mission and the knowledge, the supernal knowledge of God, suddenly our world becomes a world of calling, of Vayikra, of connection. Every moment we walk, every moment we wake, we are aware of the fact that we are in the presence of Hashem, who is calling us, and we are responding to the call of Hashem. We have a world of order and purpose and meaning. So let us look at this first word of a brand new book in the Torah with a little aleph, and think of all the little things and big things we can learn out of this little aleph, and mostly that we can transform a life in which we just happen to imagine that things just transpire without meaning and purpose, and we can transform that world into a world of calling and a world of connectedness and a world of meaning. May our lives be filled with Vayikra, of calling out to God, relationships where we call out to one another, that we call to our inner self. We are aware of the fact there is purpose and meaning. Have a beautiful Shabbos. This is the last week of countdown towards Pesach. I have sent out an email which clarifies all of the differences that take place this year, because the day before Pesach is Shabbat. Please see the email and follow the order and the sequence of preparation for Pesach. May we truly celebrate our festival of redemption for the coming of Mashiach. Have a good Shabbos.